Hey guys, what's going on? It's Gail here, back on the 5-9 channel. Today we're gonna be talking our thoughts on Zhong Li and some builds for him, of course. Of course, we've had very limited running on him. We obviously did the summoning video. Please do go check it out. And of course, we've just used him in his trial run. We've used him in his story. So we do have a very basic idea on what he's like. And of course, that sometimes can be enough. Of course, you want to trial him out, see what damage he does. You can obviously access his constellations, you can access his passive, so you know what he can get to or what he can become, especially if you get the right sets on him. Today with me to discuss the very same things that I just mentioned, of course, his builds and his best teams, we have Choco.
Hello.
We have Prof.
Hello.
So, guys, what do you guys think so far? We'll start off with just a bit of an idea. What do you guys think of his movements, his skill, his burst? What do you guys think? We'll start off with you, Prof. Sen.
So I think a lot of people are going to compare him to Madara with his ultimate. He's a pretty clean looking character in my opinion. I think it's easy to say everybody likes the way he kicks his spear when he's doing his attacks. He does seem pretty quick. You can kind of chain into, I believe it's on the third or fourth of the auto attacks. You can do his charge attack and just kind of cleanly go into it over and over again. He's a pretty fluid character. He doesn't feel as fluid as Child in my opinion, but they're both kind of just right there. They definitely play tested these characters before launching them because they just kind of feel like their kits work. I wasn't expecting to drop pillars and stuff and enjoy it, but he was actually a really fun character, and it's really satisfying to ult people with him.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think the one thing that I will say about just along with his like normal attacks, he definitely isn't maybe as fluid as certain other characters, like you mentioned, Tartaglia. But I do feel like his movement, especially with his animations, with his kicking the spear and all that, surprisingly fluid for, considering all things said and done. So I'm very, very happy with that. Also the pillar, exceptional for traveling and exploring. He's kind of like the GMC, but a taller stick,
Oh, yeah.
effectively, to climb on. So really useful there. And you could literally use him and Venti together to get a bigger like height effectively to explore, and use Venti's updraft on top of the pillar. So yeah, that's fantastic. What about you, Troko? Any thoughts on what his moveset's like? How have you found him so far?
Feels really cool. I mean, in the B-roll, because I'm doing the B-roll as we play, I'm sure you guys have noticed, I'm just abusing Hilichurls because I find it really fun to just knock them down. It just feels really cool to play with him.
Yeah, no.
I don't know if he's my favorite character to play with, but he's definitely like top 3 for how fun he just performs.
Oh, 100%. I think, all things said and done, like, I didn't think I would have as much fun as I did. And this has been a recurring theme, I feel. I go in underestimating these characters, but then you use them in the story, and then they're like, I want to use them more now, and I want to summon for them, which, that's a good thing for a gacha game. If they make you want to summon, they're doing the right thing effectively. So yeah, no, let's move on to his builds now. Of course, we've covered his, initial thoughts on like how his movement is, very basic judgment on what his skills and passives and whatnot do. So let's talk a bit about builds. What do you guys think? Do you guys think he's gonna be a better like tank, DPS, support? I know a lot of people have been suggesting he's gonna be a really decent, sort of like HP wall effectively. What do you guys think? What would you do?
So I'll take the reins on this one. I think you got to take my opinion on it, that I'm looking at him as a character that I would want to keep DPSing with. So it's a character I'm having on the field out for a majority of the time, because you know how you usually have a chain, you have a little setup, and you start seeing your favorite character just hitting those numbers. Zhong Li seems to have some fluid enough movement and control in the field where you can dodge some attacks with his charge attack even. And you can scale him on physical damage and geo damage pretty effectively. And I would be looking at maybe, we have it on the character right now, the Jade Spear is an excellent choice for his weapon. And then I would be looking into either a 2-piece set for the Geo set to get his Geo damage up. And then I believe it's the Noblesse Oblige will give him the Elemental Burst damage. So a 2-piece of that as well. How do you feel, Troko?
Yeah. He's definitely a pretty versatile character depending on which team build you kind of want to have him like if you want him to be your DPS, he can perform that very well. If you want to have him support, like he comes out, you pop the meteor, he can fulfill both roles pretty much just as good as the other one. So it really just comes down to what other characters you have on your team. Like if you have Child on your team as your main DPS, personally, I wouldn't recommend having two main DPS, but again, you could. It really just comes down to, do you have like Diluc? Do you have Child already built up for your DPS? If you do, maybe go just like a support route with him. But again, he's a very versatile character that you can really do whatever you want with him.
Yeah, I completely agree with what Prof said and Choco both said. I think personally, of course, I'm one of those guys who will probably run him as a support DPS had I obviously got him, which I'll admit I didn't. I did like 5 singles, didn't get him. But if I did have him, I personally potentially, edge towards going support slash tank for him personally. I'd go for that lithic spear of his that just came out. Of course, it's on the weapon banner. Of course, it helps out with his offense and whatnot, as well as dealing a sort of increased damage, especially I think as a passive, if I'm not mistaken. Um, but in terms of his like artifact set, I think I would personally go for a 4-piece Noblesse Oblige. I think I completely agree. Like if you're trying to go for a bit more damage on him, I think maybe a 2-piece Geo damage or 2-piece Noblesse Oblige or 2-piece Bloodstained Chivalry if you're going for that physical damage. I think those are fantastic options. But I think if you're going for support who you're just gonna switch in, use his E slash use his Q, and then hop back out, go to your main DPS like Child, I think you got to go for that 4-piece Noblesse Oblige, especially because it gives you that 20% attack boost to all party members for around, 12, 13 seconds. Very, very solid in my opinion. And especially, now I think we should also talk about the stats on the artifacts themselves, because obviously once you get to Ascension 4, which is I think, if I'm not mistaken, level 60, correct me if I'm wrong. I could stand corrected here. Choco, you have access. You can see it in the character screen on what Ascension 4 is, if it's level 60 or 70. But once you get to Ascension 4, his burst damage effectively deals an extra 33% damage, which is scaled off his maximum HP. So do you guys think, would it be smart for you to have an HP set on him in terms of like all his main stats should be HP, or do you think maybe the substats should have HP at least?
I think that there's two ways of looking at this. One, I personally, just because I like to see big numbers, and I'm assuming that his highest numbers are going to scale off having the highest HP threshold. That's great. But I would look at this as a huge plus for all you people that don't want to go grinding out the perfect set, because usually you groan when you see the HP roll. Now, if you see attack, HP on an item, your Zhong Li can use it, and he can use it pretty effectively. It might not have your crit, but these low tier items start working better for him. And then if you wanna go down the path of start converting items that would typically be a crit roll or an attack roll into pure HP, I think you could, as Gale said, you could have more of a tank based Zhong Li and still have just an incredible nuke whenever you whip him out and you drop your meteor on your opponent. And I think that's it. That sounds like a really fun way of playing this character if you're not trying to main DPS him.
Yeah, I'll just add on to that as well. We do know his E ability, or his skill, which gives him a sort of a shield around him. It scales off his max HP as well. So effectively, it's very similar in that your max HP also helps with your skill as well. What about you, Choco? What do you think? HP or no?
I think HP definitely. Pretty much for all his builds, if you want to have him as a full-on DPS, like physical, then HP is going to be good, but because a lot of the time he'll be just hitting, normal left click. If you're doing the normal, or if you're doing support reach to come out and drop a meteor, then definitely all the way you want to go HP. So that just does, big number damage when you swap in him for the meteor. Aside from that, again, if you're just using him as your only DPS in the field, it's good to have some HP, for the shield and whatnot, but I think it comes down to personal preference for some stuff like that on him.
Yeah, definitely. I think also we have to also account for the constellations and stuff like that. But a lot of his constellations basically help in terms of increasing his damage, helping him recover the incoming damage, and overall just helping him become a bit more versatile overall. It's not revolutionizing him, say, like Tartaglia's might have done, or anybody else's. So a lot of his constellation is just making him effectively a bit better overall. So, we tackled a bit upon it. Prof. Sen mentioned a bit, or no, sorry, Troko actually mentioned, if you have Child on your team, then maybe he's not the best DPS. So let's talk a bit about his teams. What do you guys think? Because personally, for me, for somebody like Zhong Li, who's like I said, I'd personally build him as somewhat of a support. I'd have him on my team definitely, but I think obviously he'd work as a sort of a support, as a third unit basically. You have your main DPS, you have that second DPS who's effectively an elemental reactor, maybe a healer in the fourth slot, or another elemental reactor, and then I'd say I'd put him in that third or fourth slot where he's either that extra unit you'd have to elemental react, or as a sort of like a shield slash blocker, like he obviously does have his shield mechanics on his skill. What do you guys think? What team builds would you think are best for him?
So my favorite combo right now is Zhong Li with Ninguang. I think that's his best friend at the moment. You can pretty much put her curtain up, covers up a huge area, increase your geo damage passing through it. You can create his structure. Suddenly you start creating these massive fields and just AoE damage after AoE damage. And I think your third and fourth units can just pretty much be giving you elemental coverage if you're in the abyss for the objectives you're currently going through. Or frankly, between Zhongli and Ninguang, you've got all the damage you need to go adventure. So you could get more utility-based characters or a healer or something in there that you need. So it's really almost like they can do the job all on their own. And then you got a situation where you have someone like Tartaglia available, then you're just picking your fourth at that point based off of your healing preferences. And so I personally, if you got access to Ninguang, I would run it with Ninguang. If not, I would run it with Geo Traveler. Just you basically drop his pillars, drop the other structures on your other character, and then just enjoy the free damage.
What about you, Choco? Any thoughts?
Pretty much the same. If you want to go for like actual like team build, then yeah, you go for the Geo bonus. But for just a lot of like I mean, really, if you want to put him on a team with like your favorite characters, it's gonna work fine. He is really a character that if you just want to build it, just drop a meteor because it looks cool, or have him as your main DPS. I think only once you start to like min-max stuff for like high-level abyss is when you should worry about like Geo stuff. He's not a character that's dependent on anyone else. Like he would get obviously a big bonus from like say if you have like Mona or Barbara with the book, swap in that damage. It will help, but it's not going to help as much as like just if they gave 48% HP or anything like that. So I don't think he needs a team built around him. I think he's just going to be a great addition on any team you really want to build. If you do have Ningguang on the team, of course, it is going to be even better, but he just seems to be pretty universal, just like all Geo characters really can be. Just slot him in anywhere and you're pretty much good to go.
Yeah, that's one thing I really like about Geo characters. I mean, I've been one who's, been very iffy on Geo characters. I feel, they're not amazing, or they don't show off that much, but they're silently there. And obviously Zhong Li is another one, like you mentioned, Troko. He's one of those versatile universal characters you can just slot in on any team and he'd do the business. I mean, as I said, like so far we've come to a kind of like a consensus that you could literally run him in like various spots. Maybe they might not be his best spots, especially if you're trying to run him as main DPS, of course. We know that, of course, Tartaglia, Diluc, Klee, you've got these characters who out DPS him by miles, but he's a very solid option if you need somebody who can somewhat DPS. I think personally, I was in the trial and his trial story, that is his story, his character story, and I saw him hitting for like around 30 to 32k solid damage from his burst. So it's not as if he can't hit those high numbers. It's, of course, you'd need to build it to be somewhat like that, and I think that's obviously goes for any character. If you build them correctly, you can get to that point. But yeah, that's what I completely agree with both what Troko and Prof said. You can pretty much run him with a lot of various characters. Obviously, Ninguang and Geo Traveler probably would be amazing for that elemental resonance and stuff, and just the combos you can run with them. But of course, he's versatile versatile enough to be run on any side. But yeah, any final thoughts from you guys? Anything you guys want to add on?
Not really. It's just pretty cool, and good luck to anyone summoning for him. Hopefully you can get him, because he's very fun. And he is very cool.
He's very fun. He's definitely not a must summon though. He doesn't bring anything to the table that you wouldn't otherwise have the ability to do in the game. He's not like Venti's Updraft, if you would, right? His pillar is pretty cool. You can climb on top of that, as we're seeing right now. But it's not overly unique, if you would, right? So y'all out there that are worried about missing out on an essential mechanic, he doesn't seem to supply anything that at least I'm aware of at this moment that you can't find elsewhere. He's not like a Mona or a Bennett, if you would, where they're just going to start being in all those combos. But he is really cool, and yeah, good luck to anybody that is just on the fence and choosing to pull him because of this.
I think like you said, he's like a jack of all trades but a master of none, effectively, is what I feel he is at this point. I still think his skills, like his petrification and stuff, is amazing. You know, it's especially unique considering not a lot of units have that sort of skill. You kind of have to freeze a unit effectively, use a cryo and a water hydro unit to kind of get that somewhat of petrification off. He just does it on his own with his burst skills. So definitely unique in
I
that
guess
sense.
it's his own, but yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like you said, I don't know if he's like a must summon for people. Again, it's something that you guys will have to decide for yourselves. At the end of the day, we're just we can just obviously suggest. And I think, yeah, he's a very good unit. You could summon for him, but you know, in the grand scheme of things, you've got units like Tartaglia, and especially if they drop more units like Tartaglia down the line, you know, we have Xiao coming, Ayaka up. There's a lot of other characters, obviously, coming down as well. We've seen those 3D leaked models that we've discussed about recently as well in a previous podcast. I think, you know, with that being said, you could easily skip on him and wait for his rerun potentially or something along those lines. But yeah, that's all from us today. Let us know down in the comments below how your summons went. If you did summon for him, what are your thoughts? Any builds you guys might have, you know, in suggestion for him, we'll be sure to check it out for sure. But yeah, it's been me, Gail, of course, Troko, and Prof. Sen. Rounding up this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Please leave a like and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you guys next time for the next video. Peace out, everybody.
Bye.